Hey, y'all, welcome back to the CashPT Lunch Hour. My name is Dr. Aaron LeBauer with LeBauer Consulting and the CashPT Lunch Hour, and I have an amazing guest joining us today. His name is Dr. Ryan Debell, and I think I first met or interacted with Ryan. We never really met in person. It's one of those weird new internet things that you learn now that the internet becomes more part of our life. But it's been like 3 or 4 years probably. And he's a chiropractor, but doesn't identify as one. And so we'll ask him more about that in a few minutes. He's a serial entrepreneur, business owner. He's had a practice that he's, I think he was in network for a while. Then he went to out of network cash, and now he's not in practice anymore. And he's doing online business, helping other people create successful businesses and lives. And so I'm super excited to have him on the podcast today. So Ryan, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And yeah, I think it was probably 3 years ago when our paths first crossed on the internet.
Yeah.
That's how it goes a lot these days, right?
I know. It's incredible. And I think what's really amazing to me is that you can start finding the people that think and do things very similar to you through the internet. And whether you meet in person or not, one day, that's all good. But then when you do actually meet in person, I just think those connections are a lot stronger than the connections you might make because someone's your neighbor or they're in close proximity to you for one reason or another.
Yeah, the world gets small, and I think that people who are trying to break the normal expectation of what a business should be or kind of what roles we should play, those people need to stick together because it can be really hard, especially at first. And so I think that people coming together and seeking out other people doing similar things is probably a way to find, in some ways, like a support network, so everyone can help raise each other up.
Right, exactly. So tell us just a little bit about you. You're a chiropractor, so tell us. My listeners don't have maybe as big of an idea of who you are. How'd you get into chiropractic? Why do you now not like identify as a chiropractor? Tell us.
Yeah. So I consider myself a person who went to chiropractic school, not a chiropractor, just because I think that naming myself after one school of thought is extremely limiting. Mm-hmm. And people put these mental limitations on themselves. Like if you think if I thought of myself just as a chiropractor, then I'm only going to see the way to help someone through the ways that chiropractors help people. Right. And that's, in my opinion, ignorant to the fact that there are many ways to help people. And so I don't like to call myself a chiropractor because it's just such an artificial label. I'm just a person who went and got a degree in chiropractic to learn about the human body. Why do I have to put these walls around myself because I went and chose one method of learning about health? Anyways, so how I got to that point of like why I went to chiro school was I didn't want to go to medical school because it wasn't appealing to me. And I probably didn't go to physical therapy school because I shadowed a physical therapist who worked at just some big physical therapy clinic, and it seemed extremely boring. And then all the chiropractors I'd ever been to ran their own small businesses. It just seemed more fun. That's essentially why I chose one profession over the other. Mm-hmm. I didn't apply to a bunch of schools. I applied to one chiropractic school, and that's the one I went to. What'd you say? Were
you seriously looking into like other professions? Like, did you do pre-med? Did you like look and go visit PT schools, or was it?
No, not at all. My undergraduate degree is in business the management of information systems and technology. Mm-hmm. And I had several internships while I was in business school, and I didn't like where that route went in terms of the corporate realm of work. So I think it was either toward the middle of my junior year, I started taking like physics and chemistry and courses along those lines that are prerequisites to get into any sort of medical program. Mm-hmm. Without knowing exactly where I wanted to go. I didn't tour any schools. I just applied to the one that was, and I just figured I would make of it whatever I would make of it. Yeah. I think that, I think really it's more about like, what do you make of school? Not what school do you go to? Like the constant is you and the variable is the school, Mm-hmm. Like I think people identify too much with that. Like if I went to this school, it means this. It's like,
yeah, well, people do that with treatment techniques too. They're like, oh, I'm this kind of person, like I do this treatment technique and this is
yeah. And I think that's because people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Like, if you really know what you believe, then you understand that everything out there is a tool, not an identity.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally see that. Yeah, I only applied to one school too. I got in, I went to the information session, and they're like, well, we do rolling admissions and we have 2 more spots open. So if you want in for January, you better apply. So I went home, registered for the GRE, studied for that for 2 days. I think the information session was Tuesday and GRE was Saturday. I got the passing score I needed and got all my stuff in and got my interview called, I don't know, a couple weeks later, but I was just like, got in and then went to school. And it was just like a tool for me to, progress my career.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tool. Like, you're being presented with information to help teach you, and then what you decide to do with it is up to you based on the vision that you have for what you want to do with your life and with your time. And that's why I say I'm not a chiropractor. I'm a person who went to business school, and I see opportunities based on the knowledge I acquired from taking that coursework.
Now, did that come about like after school, like because people were labeling you as a cracker, crack my back, fix me kind of thing? Or?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably like the most frustrating part of having gone to chiropractic school is that the little box that people put you in. Whether that's actually real or that's something that I just believe to be real, I'm not sure. But I see myself as a business level human health. Like, so making that shift in my mentality really changed the opportunities I see in the world to help people.
Gotcha. And when did you come up with your vision for your business? Because did you start a business right after chiropractic school, or was this something you were like, oh, I'm going to go start a business, or like, where did this all come about?
I don't, my vision still changes frequently. My vision changes all the time at the particular level, but I think the overarching vision doesn't change that much. What happened was I was going to work for this lady at her clinic, and then she was being very misleading in terms of the job opportunity. Like, I didn't want to be I wanted to be an independent contractor, and she really was being misleading about the role that she was trying to fill. So anyways, about 3 months before I graduated, she hired an associate rather than hiring me after years of telling me that, we would work together. So I was like, screw it. I'm just going to go start my own clinic. So I started my own clinic from scratch. I had to get, no banks would give me a loan. So I financed my equipment through a company, and I got business credit cards and just maxed them out to buy everything I needed. And I had to get a cosigner on my lease, which was my dad. So my dad co-signed my lease space, and then I had to pay all of these tenant improvements for my clinic space. So that took approximately 9 months to get done. And in the meantime, I figured, I have to figure out how to get patients, because people aren't just going to come see me. So I knew that my background was really in like fitness and CrossFit and that type of stuff. So I started doing talks at CrossFit gyms for about 2 hours for free. I just emailed every gym within 15 miles of where my clinic location was going to be and asked them if they would allow me to do a 2-hour talk. And then I had probably like 90% of them not respond to me. And then the 10% that did respond, I went and did my talk, and they liked it. And several of them suggested I make it into a paid thing that people could attend and learn. And that's what gave the origin of me doing movement fix workshops, which actually was a larger business from like, I was doing that and as a business before my clinic opened, actually. Wow. So
in that 9 months you had that, you were already charging people to come to your movement fix workshop.
Yeah, right. And that was really just based on, like, it was never my idea. My idea was just to do it to get people to come see me as a patient. And then several people kept suggesting it. So I just figured, hey, if two or three people are suggesting that I do this, I should try it.
Yeah. And
one thing I have never been afraid of is to try it and put myself on the line and see if it'll work. I mean, I think that's really what you have to do, because if you don't try, then you'll never know if it works or not. And eventually something's going to work.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one of those things, trying it. Like, so I'm running across the same theme in the last few months, is that people are afraid to put themselves out there,
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it can be terrifying, but you have to, there's certain techniques and things you can use to make yourself less terrified in the face of risk. So then I started, so I basically did those workshops, maybe 20 weekends, 25 weekends a year while I was running my clinic. And I was doing the whole insurance thing, and that was basically the worst part of my life. That's why I stopped doing it. Like I analyzed what are the most stressful parts of my life. Like what are the parts of my life that I hate? And the biggest one was dealing with insurance companies. I just thought it's such a loser's game. That's how I thought about it. Like you could be a winner playing a loser's game and you can't win.
Right.
Like that's kind of how I viewed it. I also view sort of like chiropractic, especially, it'd be like if you had car insurance, you don't expect that car insurance to pay for your oil change and tire replacements and brake pads. And essentially, in a way, that's what we're doing, because if someone broke their arm or had a major disease, like they're going to go, that would be like crashing your car. Right. And that's really what I felt like the whole insurance industry was designed for. So, and obviously the insurance companies were seeing a lot of abuse and like, should we really be paying for this? And then tightening that up. And it's like, is this a game I want to play? That's what I asked myself. Is this how I want to spend my time, is dealing with, being on the phone or having people like trying to scrape the money out of these hands of the insurance companies who have staff that they can pay a lot of money to just waste your time. And I just decided, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to figure out a way to do it differently. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I stopped taking insurance, and I was growing my workshops and things in the meantime. So that made it certainly easier to have a second line of business.
Yeah. So were you all by yourself doing all this? Did you have staff?
No, it's just me.
Just you. Okay. Yeah. Cause that's a lot of work for just one person to do insurance, man.
Oh yeah. I was doing everything and doing the workshops and making digital products.
Yeah.
I mean, I hired some like independent contractors, like freelancers, to do some stuff, like some of my automated marketing stuff for workshops. But no, I didn't have anybody else in my clinic. Yeah. I mean, I really was never focused on the clinic, because I saw, in my opinion, like where that led versus what I wanted to accomplish, and it wasn't the path for me. Yeah.
So was that something? Did you end up selling your clinic or closing it? Or?
We're in the process of selling it right now. We're just finalizing the paperwork.
Mm-hmm. So this is recent.
Yeah. I expect in 1 to 2 months, everything will be signed and transferred over.
Wow. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Cool. It's been an interesting shift in self-perception, going from being clinician to business owner of a, what I consider to be like a health and fitness company.
Right. So is what you're doing now. So Movement Fix started as, you're doing these workshops, but now you've added other things to it.
Oh yes.
Right. So talk about tell me about I want to know about that, because part of it is, I own a clinic, but I also started a education consulting coaching company as well a few years ago. There's a lot of other people out there who have a clinic, but also want some larger impact in the world, or to have another kind of ongoing revenue stream that helps balance out the ups and downs of the clinic and maintain the ability to see people here and, around the world. So tell us a little bit about that. What kinds of things do you offer? How'd you come up with some of these ideas?
Yeah. So, the workshop was the first one, and that was the sole product for probably 3 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And, I created that because I felt like from all the courses I had taken, there was just a lot of missing links. Mm-hmm. And so, I think very analytically and logically. And so I could see the logical holes in a lot of things, and I wanted to give my thoughts on them. And that's really what the workshop was. It was just me sharing what I thought was valuable. And, whether people think it's more like the workshop was my thought process on assessing movement for exercise. It wasn't like some system that,
Right. Was it for CrossFit coaches or for the athletes? And
a lot of clinicians, coaches, trainers, and athletes take it. And I think everybody takes kind of the information at the level that they're at.
Right.
So a lot of medical providers will take, maybe they don't lift, maybe they don't do heavy deadlifts, maybe they don't do cleans, and they don't do Olympic lifts. So they take away some of that. Maybe they take away like the communication style, how I would speak to those athletes who do Olympic lift. So anyways, people will take different things. And then traveling that much is really tiring. Yeah. And I wanted to do something to balance out the requirement to travel so much. So I started figuring out okay, well, what kind of digital products could I make? And so I was doing also 2-hour mini workshops on different segments of my larger workshop. So I filmed one
Okay.
And then I put that as a video course that people could buy on my site. And then I filmed another one that was like it was like squatting. And then I filmed the entire workshop with like, it was mic'd up. We had 3 cameras. It was it wasn't a huge production, but we had, multi angles, and we cut it up, put it into an actual course format on the site. I'm in the process of getting CEs for it for different training programs like ACE and NASM and stuff. And then, but then I was thinking, well, that's a great product for trainers who are willing to spend that kind of money for education. But what about end consumers?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I figured, okay, well, what are the 2 biggest areas that people have complaints of typically in the clinic? And that was shoulders and low back. And I thought, what if I could sit down and spend a month or whatever writing a training program specifically for shoulders that was somewhat generic and guided by an algorithm, essentially. And that would probably be a pretty good thing if I could dedicate that much of my time to it, because you're not going to dedicate a month to writing a program for one patient. I mean, that's just, no one's going to do that. So I figured, why don't I just automate essentially the main functions of me in my clinic? And so I made these programs. Now, of course, they're not meant to replace a medical examination. Like if someone has a real injury, you can't expect that you're going to buy a program on the internet and fix that. Like that would be, misleading in my opinion. Right. So, but there's a lot of people who will search for an answer on the internet. And I figured, expenses, because if people can buy a program on the internet and then do it themselves, they don't need to spend thousands of dollars going and seeing somebody. And then that's a huge, that actually puts a huge burden on the healthcare system.
Right.
So that's why I made a shoulder and mobility and health program and a low back and hip mobility program that includes strengthening work, mobility drills, things like that, in a way that's, systematic and linearly progressing. So I made those and figured out how to automate that and automate the delivery, automate the marketing funnels. So it's pretty much completely hands off right now, so that I can focus on something that I'm working on right now, which is a physical product that will be launching probably in September. So,
oh, wow.
Sort of like figuring out, how do you put yourself consistently out of business? So, okay, well, can I automate everything I'm doing right now? Essentially, yes. So that now allows me to work on bigger things that are more expensive and harder to create, which is kind of where my mind is at now. Like, what big things do I want to do?
Yeah. What big things are on the horizon?
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you just a couple of details. So tell me, because I know people will be interested, what did you originally charge for the Movement Fix workshop, and then what did it cost? And then, kind of what are some of the price points for some of the digital products and things you've described?
Yeah. So initially I charged like $50 for a half day, and then I kept selling those out, and I went, okay, price is too low, supply and demand, basic econ. So then I made the full workshop $199 as an early bird price. So it's $199 for essentially 7 hours of instruction. And then, I pretty much kept that price for a while. And then recently I tried to increase it to $299. And that was definitely too high, because the sales, the numbers dropped. Like the actual overall revenue was low. So that price was too high. And you don't know that until you just test the prices. Right. So I think $199 or $249 for a 1 day generic, like, I say generic because it's not like specifically for clinicians, but that's something that we are developing. That seemed to be a nice price point. $199 or $249, I think, is a great price. The shoulder and hip training programs are $97, but I do price test those and to see how to maximize revenue. I think that's, as a business owner, your responsibility is to maximize revenue and collect as much money as possible so that it's a resource to make better things for people. So that's why I price test. So like I have automated price testing going on through my my email marketing funnels. So I'll have basically I'll split test like 4 times and check different discount amounts, and I'll run different Facebook ads and split test those with Google Optimize to see which price point converts higher on my site, and then that'll help to know what price point you should be charging, which is a really common practice. I mean, every large business does price testing. Yeah.
Are you doing those within like the shopping cart, active campaign, just
well, it depends. So I do price testing through a education funnel on my site where people who are going through the email funnel will be converted, or they'll be pushed into different routes. Some will get like a $25 coupon. Some people will get like a 50% coupon. So I see which coupon amount and offer converts the highest.
Mm-hmm.
But then what I also did was duplicated my sales pages and made some of them link to a cheaper product. And then I use Google Optimize to randomly split the traffic. And then I can measure the conversion rate of those particular products. That's how I do that.
Yeah.
Cool. And then yeah, I mean, there's a lot of technical stuff you can do. Like you can do Facebook custom audience ads in line with the email marketing campaign. Anyways, there's a lot of things you could do there. But so I charge $97 for those 12-week training programs.
Mm-hmm.
I charge $149 for my 12-week like actual workout programs.
Okay.
And then I think those prices work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
and then
I'll see, over time.
Yeah. When you were in the clinic, were you getting patients out of the workshops?
No. Well, I would get like 2 patients a month who followed my blog. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think doing blogging and Instagram and YouTube is a terrible use of your time if you want to build a clinic. Like I had 40,000 Instagram or whatever, 30,000 Instagram followers, and I would get 2 a month. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like, so I know some people do it, but I think there's way better uses of time. Like if I went and did a talk at a local gym for free, I would get 10 people that day.
Yeah.
So I think that there's better uses, because it's an international platform. Why would, using an international platform to target people who are local? I don't know. That wouldn't be my strategy.
We don't get any of our patients from our like Twitter, Instagram stuff. It's I don't even have an Instagram for our business. We have a Facebook community. We have a private Facebook group, Facebook page, and people will contact us through there, but they're still finding us through Google. Google search, Google Business, Yelp, getting your reviews up, making review funnels for your clinic, probably some local ads into education funnels. Those would be the things that I would do if I was trying to grow a practice for sure. Yeah. And local talks. Right. And so what do you do? And so now that you're you're not in business as a chiropractor.
Right.
Or doing chiropractic.
Yeah, I'm not doing one-on-one in-person patient care. Right. Yeah.
What are you doing? So now we're talking about advertising. Like, what are your top things that you do to drive people to your website for your information products and your courses?
YouTube, SEO, and Facebook lead ads.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And which one works the best?
Best at what? Conversions?
Yeah, best conversions.
I don't know yet because they're still all a work in progress. Mm-hmm. I would say the Facebook lead ads right now.
Yeah.
We'll see how sustainable that is. So essentially the way that works is like there's an ad on Facebook that says, hey, do you want to learn more about this? And then a lead ad is where you can enter in your email address on Facebook so they don't have to leave. And then when they enter that in, it connects with the email marketing software, puts them in an education funnel, and then it puts them through a sales process.
Yeah. That's cool. So Ryan, how'd you learn all this stuff? Did you work with a coach, mentor, or did you just?
Oh, no, I just figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I studied coding and computer logic in school. I wrote Excel macros and I wrote database queries and stuff like that. So I'm very familiar with technology in that way, but I love technology and computers and software. Like I built a website when I was in junior high. Uh-huh. And like I ordered computer parts off of Newegg when I was like 14, had them shipped to my parents' house and built a computer.
Nice.
So I've always been into that stuff. So it just seems like natural. Like I'll just tinker around and figure out like, how could I use the capabilities of this technology to educate people and then show them why my product is valuable for them? Right. One mental barrier that I had to get through and what I realized was like, instead of, there's people think that like when you're selling people things that you're trying to trick them. Mm-hmm. And what you're really doing when you're trying to sell people stuff is make sure that the people who will benefit from your product are the ones who buy it. Like when you think of marketing as, hey, you know what? I want to show you what this is about so that if it's not for you, you don't buy it. And if it is for you, you do buy it. Right. Because the program will help people, and products that you make, if you make them actually, if you're not some scam artist, they will help people. And who I don't want to buy my products is the people who aren't the right customer. I don't want them to buy it because they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
I want the people. So that's why I think educating people before you try to, show them your product is really important, because they have an idea of like what it is. And so if I could make the perfect marketing system, I would only show ads to the people who are going to buy it. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to. So this is another thing I had to get over when I was thinking about digital marketing. I don't want to show a bunch of people and figure out how to convince them to buy it. I want to put the marketing materials in front of the people who will buy it because it's helpful for them. And if I could figure out exactly who that person is, I would have the best marketing system in the world.
Mm-hmm. Almost like you're putting it in front of the person who's ready to buy it. They just don't know it exists or it's ready yet.
Right. Exactly.
Go, oh, that's what I was looking for.
Like, this is what I need. It's not like, okay, fine, you've convinced me to buy it. That's not what marketing is. Marketing is not convincing people to buy something they don't need. It's showing the people who need it and want it that you sell it and you can help them. Mm-hmm. And as soon as people get over that, your business will grow, because you'll stop being afraid that people are going to be mad because you're tricking them into something. That is not what it is. But I think there's this perception in healthcare that sales is bad, marketing is bad. No, like, there are people who want solutions that you have because you're an expert, and you need to show them that so that they can benefit.
Right. People even have an idea that money's bad too. That I don't deserve money. I shouldn't earn money.
Money is a resource, because like what I'm doing right now, this physical product that I'm making, I couldn't have done it without money. Mm-hmm. Like, I had to have a substantial amount of resources to be able to invest in an idea that and a product that will help a lot of people, and I think be a great benefit for many clinicians, especially. But you can't do that if you don't have resources. The more resources you collect, the more help, and the more there's people out there who are not doing things correctly, and they're getting a lot of money and then not doing things well. So in my opinion, it's actually more important that if you're altruistic in any way, that you do relentlessly pursue collecting resources so that you can lead companies that can positively influence people, rather than letting the people who don't have that moral character to be the ones who are doing it. And, that's a problem, because a lot of the times the people who have good intentions are the ones who don't want that because they think it's bad. Right. Like, it's this weird loop that we have to break people out of. And that's why Dr. Anthony Gustin and I started Health Fit Business, which was our business podcast and business website, was because we believe that healthcare providers and those who've actually formally studied health should be the CEOs and owners of health companies, not people who haven't studied health. Because those people don't know why they make their products. They make them because they think they can make money. They don't make them because they're the right product. And that pisses me off.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes me upset about the whole insurance thing. And people used to tell me, it's unethical not to accept insurance. So, I think it's unethical for someone who's not a healthcare provider to decide on how my patient gets treated, which is essentially what happens when they say that we're not going to pay you for 3 units of manual therapy.
Oh yeah. That's, in my opinion, unethical. But the problem is that there's a lot of healthcare providers who unethically overcharge. And so that's a problem too. So It's like a reaction to that, I think, in some ways. But I mean, that's a weird thing that some random company can say, hey, no, this isn't necessary. And it's like, how do you know? You're not.
Yeah.
It's a weird system. Like, I think it's unethical. I thought it was sort of unethical for me to treat someone based on, like, I had to stop taking insurance because I couldn't live with the fact that I couldn't make the right choice.
Right.
Like, I can't do what I think. And now I'm incentivized to treat a certain way because of the rules, the arbitrary rules of some insurance company. I can't live with myself doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a hard time thinking, okay, this person's only paying me, I'm only getting $75 for this person over here and $150 for this person. Like, I'm going to treat them differently. Even without intention, there's going to be
of course, yeah.
Some thing that I'm favoring the person who's paying $150, whether it's the time of day they get in to see me. Do I go over 15 minutes? Do I go short 5-10 minutes with the other person because I know that it's not worth my time? I mean, that's tough. That's tough to separate yourself from that kind of influence.
Yeah, and I think that it puts you in a precarious position if you have to deal with that and still try to make the right choice.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a hard spot to be in.
Yeah,
it was very uncomfortable when I was there.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. So that was like, was that the thing that got you going from in network to out of network, or just?
Yeah, no, that was. Yeah. I was like, I honestly can't spend my time, mental resources, energy on pre-authorizations.
Right.
I can't. accept having to decide what treatment to do based on what I'm going to get reimbursed. I mean, in the chiropractic world, there would be like, I would get reimbursed for a manipulation with no pre-authorization, but I wouldn't get reimbursed for exercise unless I got it authorized. So if I wanted to do what I felt was right, I had to get it authorized. So how much easier is it for me to just crack someone's back and not have to deal with the authorizations?
Right. I
can't live that way.
Yeah.
Because that's a loser's game. Like I said, the way that it's supposed to be done is harder, and you have to get it. And I would see people like twice a month because I would give them a big plan and I would say, look, do this. And if you do this, come back because I want to minimize your cost.
Right.
But every 4 weeks I would have to get reauthorization. So I would have to get reauthorization after 2 visits for every person. So then I was incentivized to see them in excess of what I felt was necessary, because they would do 8 treatments over the course of 4 weeks could be pre-authorized, but I saw them twice in 4 weeks. Right. So so in my mind, I'm like, I'm trying to cost you guys less, but you're making it harder for me. Like, this is backwards. I'm not going to play this game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a similar thing that we have with Medicare as PTs. Like, if I'm not a Medicare provider, I can't, contract with the patient directly. And it's like, but if they pay me directly, they're saving you money. You don't have to pay out money. So why is this an issue? It's just some
it's strange
lawmaking. I mean, it's just not in the best interest of people. It's the best interest of someone else's.
Yeah, exactly. And then the issue becomes, okay, like, so we're identifying all these problems, right? And then that can make you feel sort of like depressed, like you're fighting this thing, but you really have to focus on what are the solutions.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is a problem. Wah, wah, wah. Okay, what can we do about it? Like, and that's where you have to focus your time and your energy and your focus. Because if you keep focusing on the problems and not how to solve those problems, you're going to be a pretty depressed human. Yeah. So then, I mean, that's probably why I started going on this divergent route. I was like, okay, well, let's see the way that this can be solved. And that's what I'm trying to figure out now.
Yeah.
And that's why
you mean, like educating the public directly about
how to right. Okay. Well, all right. So I can't, I could see people one-on-one in the clinic and do the cash model. That's certainly something that's possible. But I was at a point with the kind of position I had kind of fallen into, I guess you could say, on the internet, with having done all these events, that I had an opportunity to then be like, okay, well, I could probably do something a little bit different, given that I've created somewhat of a platform for myself in the in the fitness community. So then, okay, well, what could I do with that? And so that's when I started thinking about how I could use technology to educate large amounts of people and provide them with solutions at a reasonable cost to help them solve their own problems. Because people are not dumb. Like, people can figure their stuff out if they're given the appropriate information. So I had to make a choice, with the influence I could have on YouTube or my podcast or my site. How do I want to use that for the greatest good? Like, the area under the curve is really how I see it. So maybe I could help someone on the internet at 25% max of what somebody in person could help with, because there's no arguing that in person's better. Like, the depth you can help someone in person is way better than online. But let's say it was 4 times greater in person, right? I can help 100 times more people online than I could in person, or 1,000 or 10,000 times more. So even though the depth with each person is less, the area under the curve of total humans helped is larger. So that's kind of how that's how I thought about, like, which choice to make was the larger area under the curve. And there are a lot of great clinicians who can help those people at greater depths if needed. And I guess that's just kind of how I see it at this point.
Yeah, I love that. And that's kind of we're on a similar trajectory. I mean, I go in, I can treat 5 people on Monday, or I can create a piece of content that educates thousands of people on how to get in front of more patients, more people. Like,
I mean, if you're able to help other clinicians grow their business and their revenue, they can then provide a higher level of service. And so, I mean, we have to help people in the ways that we have the capacity. And to be honest, I never enjoyed doing one-on-one patient care. Like, it just didn't work with my personality, because I felt like I was always repeating myself. Why don't I just make it once and then figure out a way to automate it? So I got a little bit frustrated. Now, not everybody's that way. There's a lot of clinicians that I've talked with who they love treating people.
Yeah.
I like creating things and then making them accessible and then creating more things. And I think, I had to be okay with that, because that isn't the mold that we're all supposed to fit in.
Right.
but you have to know yourself enough to know what do you really like to do.
Yeah.
And I like making things, and I like using technology to make things. So it's really fun for me.
Cool.
But I'm doing it in a way to help people, because there are a lot of problems, and there's a lot of people who have pain. There's a lot of people who don't even know how to move their body. There's people who don't know how to eat. There's people who don't even know like sleep is important. Fundamentally, most people don't know how to take care of their body. And, we need to, and the fact that there's still so many people out there who don't means we're not really solving the big problem, because there's hundreds of thousands or millions of people who don't even have full range of motion in any of their joints.
No, I think we're only scratching the surface of like a thin, or a thick layer, but we're very thin in the surface of affecting everybody who needs it.
Yeah. I mean, if we really want to turn the country around, the world around, like, people need to understand that taking care of your body and doing strength training properly, eating properly, like doing range of motion exercises so that you keep your joints healthy. You don't have to get a joint replacement because you never moved your hip through its full range of motion in 20 years. Like, if we want to decrease the healthcare expenses, we need to nip those things in the bud by educating people on how to keep their body healthy earlier.
Right.
And clearly that problem's not being solved because there are people getting joint replacements. So how do we solve that problem? We have to leverage technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's even I even think with the opioid, I'm going to put air quotes.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing, like, that pain is not being dealt with the right way. We get people addicted to opioids and then we ruin lives.
Right.
It's broken, and we need to fix that. So how do we do it? Providing great service, avoiding the insurance companies who are incentivizing poor treatment is one. Mm-hmm. And so, like, what you do, helping people become better at that, is incredible work. People investing themselves and their energy and their time into working with those people one-on-one. That's incredible work. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're using our particular skill sets to help, like, fix these problems. I just happen to be using technology and computers and software because that's what I like. And so I can see that route.
Yeah, that's great. Let me ask you, I'm going to go off on a little different, or just get back to something we talked about before. So you started the Health Fit Biz with Anthony. And I want to say that I was listening to your podcast this summer or this fall? And I was like, since then, I've turned off all notifications on my phone. I went back to canned responses on Gmail, and I was like, oh, yeah, I use those. I was like, duh, Aaron, spend 10 minutes and put these next answers in there. And so it just got me back into canned responses. But I want to say, one, thank you very much for that, because that was really helpful for me. And but two, I want you to talk about a little bit more about why you guys started that podcast and what you guys are doing there. And I even got one of your planners off your website.
Oh, awesome. So, was it the blue one or the black one?
It's the blue one.
Oh, yeah. The new one. Yeah. The Daily Growth Journal.
Yeah.
So yeah, Anthony and I went to school together in Chiro school. He no longer practices. He runs two supplement companies, and which are focused on education for helping people to learn more about nutrition. So he's like what I'm doing for fitness and exercise and movement. He's doing a similar thing for nutrition.
Okay.
So I use my workshops and my digital products to fund the creation of better content to educate. He uses the sales of his dietary supplements to build better content to educate people about nutrition, So like having a business that has a blog is different than having a blog that sells a product.
Right.
Like a business should have a blog. You need a business to sustain a blog. So, so we decided like, hey, you know what? There's a lot of people out there who don't really know how to start doing this. And we've been fortunate through our lives to have the influences that we've had to figure out how to do this. So we decided like, let's just make 10 to 15 minute podcast episodes that cut through all the BS and there's no fluff, so that we just give people 1 or 2 actionable pieces of information per episode. And we recorded a ton of those and made those available. And then we made a journal that was like a productivity journal that we felt was not just like, sit around and write things and feel good about yourself, but like actually doing real work.
Right.
Because so many of the journals out there are like, well, are we actually going to get to work or not? Like they're not work-based. They're to like make you feel good about yourself, which is important. But at some point you actually have to do work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we designed the Daily Domination Journal. We ordered our first run of those, sold those out. So then we made the second version, which is what you got, which is called the Daily Growth Journal. And the Daily Growth Journal, what we figured out was that a lot of people fall off doing these journals. And one of the reasons is because they're so repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided, okay, how can we use this journal to show people that they have more control over their lives than they think? And how can we do that in a way that makes it something they want to keep coming back to? So in the Daily Growth Journal, each day has a daily challenge that is unique per day. So it's a 90-day journal, and there's 90 different challenges. And what we did was we figured out all the areas of your life that influence how you see the world. And then we made challenges in each of those, I think it was 6 areas, in increasing difficulty to show people that the world is more malleable than you think. And then we put those in the journal, like scattered the categories, but from easier to harder, so that we could ramp people up into trying to make, realize that you can break the habit of what you do every day. Most people are stuck in a habit. They actually don't think about what they're doing. So each day has one of those. So we use it to build people's productivity, teach them time blocking, to teach them how to organize their thoughts, to focus on 2 big things per day, and then also to show them that the world is more malleable than they think, and they have more control over their lives than they think. And that's what we use the daily challenge for. And then we built a course that showed people how to basically take an audit of their life and their business and figure out what their vision and their purpose is and where they want to spend their time. So we've sort of like, that business is built and it exists and it's available. And we haven't posted anything new on there because he's been incredibly busy doing his stuff, and so have I. But I know that when the growth stops a little bit or slows down, we'll probably record a lot more episodes with things that we've learned over the past year. I don't think we posted an episode in a year probably. So that's why we built that. We just wanted to share the knowledge that we had and try to contribute, because we do believe that other healthcare providers should be CEOs of health companies, like I mentioned. And so how can we help people do that? Well, share what we've learned. I mean, it's not like we've figured it out. Like, we both always feel like we don't know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We always feel like, I don't know, because when you're pushing at the boundary of your abilities, you always feel like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you realize, you look back and you're like, oh, I was learning. That's what I was doing. Yeah. I was learning how to do that. Got it. I didn't realize it at the time.
Right.
I was learning some valuable lessons. So we just wanted to pass along what we've learned. Not that we're claiming that we know everything in the world there is to know, but
but you guys are both successful business owners, and everyone's got something to share, whether it's a mindset or something. In that regard, tell me, like, one thing that I find people struggle with, or is when starting a business, is feeling like they have, like, they're spending money versus investing in their business. Like, like that's too expensive, I can't do this, versus, obviously, this is an investment for me to grow my business. I just want you to share, like, what are you doing to invest in yourself and growing your business, and how is that affecting you and affecting your business and life?
Well, I think the number one thing, hold on, let me rephrase that. Fundamentally, people need to think about money differently. Money isn't something that you keep in your bank and then pay your bills with. It's a resource.
Right.
And studying money, like, what's the future value of money? What's the present value of money? How can you use money as leverage? Like, when you start to think about it as a resource that you can leverage, you won't think about, like, I have to spend $2,000 to get design work done for this. Yeah, but if you spend $2,000 to get design work done, you're going to have way more sales because your business looks more professional. Mm-hmm. So it's a multiplier. You're leveraging the resource to generate more revenue, so you can leverage that to generate more revenue. So I think if you fundamentally change your view on money as something that you earn instead of, and then think of it instead as a resource that you can leverage, you'll think of it differently. Yeah. What am I doing currently to invest in myself? I think that reading at least 1 hour per day is the most valuable thing any human being can do, because you're literally, if you read the right books, you could read in 10 hours what it took someone 30 or 40 years of thinking and experimenting to figure out, and then they wrote it in a book, and you can just read that in 10 hours. Are you kidding me? And you're choosing not to read? I do not understand that. Like, I'm rereading this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is about Napoleon Hill and Schwab and Carnegie and all these guys, right? can you imagine the trials and tribulations they went through, and they're just going to write a book and tell you the answers, and people choose not to read it and then wonder why they are having a hard time? Like, learn from the people who have made it, and they have so much resources. They're like, we have to pass this information on so that other people can get there faster and do better things. Like, reading 1 hour per day is 365 hours of reading per year. And if it takes you 10 hours to acquire 40 years of knowledge, in some ways through a book, like, do the math. How many years is that? I mean, like 360, whatever, however, I can't do the math on the top of my head and pumped up right now, but like, you get the idea. It's like thousands of years or something. So that's number one. And then number two is I will take online courses frequently on technology. So I use sites like, let's say, Skillshare.com or Udemy or something, and I'll buy courses all the time on ActiveCampaign, on SEO, on like, I took a class on drawing. I take all these. I probably do like an hour of video courses per day.
Yeah.
So each day it's an hour of reading and then an hour of some online learning, a skill. And then all those things cultivate and accumulate into a point where you can start to see solutions to the problems, because you're like, oh, I see how I can leverage technology. Or like, oh, this way of thinking I learned in this book shows me that when you fear something, that's because you're on the edge of your capabilities, which is actually you growing. So you have to trust that process. And like, that's what people who've been through that process can share with you, like how to correctly identify your feelings and like, what do those really mean? So I think those are important. I reinvest basically all of my money into making my site and my business better. Like, I barely pay myself. I reinvest all of it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I mean, I'm sleeping in a tent this month in my friend's backyard while I work on this project. So I can just like live here on minimal cost while I invest basically a lot of my personal revenue or personal finances into my next project, because I don't care about spending money on myself. I care about growing an awesome business, and eventually that'll pay off, but so I invest all of it back in.
That's amazing. Yeah. So Ryan,
it just cut out. I don't know if you said anything after I said that, but it cut out for a second.
Yeah, no, I was waiting. So what's your 10-year goal? Like, what's your 10-year goal or vision right now?
Well, I don't know yet. I know the levels of like finances I want to achieve, and I know basically what product lines I want to have. Yeah. I mean, I know what the path looks like, but what is my goal? My goal is to help people become a master of their own body.
Yeah.
Like, I believe that.
Are you measuring that? Are you able to measure that?
Well, I measure it through the number of people who've purchased programs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the best metric I can have right now. So like, if I believe, I believe that human beings should be masters of their own body. You should know as a human being how to move, how to exercise, how to eat, how to sleep, how to meditate, how to learn, etc. And so how do I measure that? If 1,000 people buy a shoulder program, then that's an indirect measure of, people improving themselves. So literally it's the sales of products, because the more sales there are, the more people that are being influenced by the products.
Yeah.
So how high does that go? Right now I'm focused more on launching my physical product, and then use those resources to figure it out. Like, I think about the path of entrepreneurship, like, you can only see the next pylon. The general direction to walk in, but you have to look for the pylon, focus on getting to that pylon. And then when you're at that pylon, you can figure out where the next one is, but you don't know where the next one is. You have to just get to the next one, like do the next obvious thing. So the workshops, it was like, okay, get better at workshops, generate revenue. I don't know where that's going to go. Okay, now I see I can make digital programs. Okay, that's the next pylon. Let me go figure out how to do that. Okay, now I can make physical products because I have the resources and I've developed the network to do that. All right, let me do that. Where does that go? I don't know. I'll find out when I get there. Right. So I try not to overthink it too much, but I know that I just actually put together the guiding principles of Movement Fix. And I think that was important because it's essentially an algorithm for how to make decisions for the business. So for example, those would be, we don't believe in quick fixes, gimmicks, and hacks. I don't believe in that. We think things should be as simple as possible without losing accuracy. We believe a basic education on health should be free. And there's two more I can't remember off the top of my head, but like if you can figure out what are the guiding principles that help you make decisions for your business, that brings clarity. It's like, should I do this? Well, is this a gimmick? Is this a hack? Is this as simple as it could be?
Right.
Like those types of things help you figure out what to do and what not to do. So I think a set of principles that guide your business is, it helps you to achieve your vision without actually knowing precisely what your vision, how it will manifest, let's say.
Yeah, that's awesome. If someone who's listening is interested in starting a business, or especially like an online information product type of business, what's the number one piece of advice you could give to them?
There's always a way. You just have to figure it out.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like I thought for example, I'll elaborate. When I launched my shoulder program, I thought like, okay, well, everyone who wanted it bought it. Right. And then the sales kind of barely trickled in after the launch. And then I started getting smarter about how I was marketing it. And then the sales went up substantially and they became regular. And I think the missing link for most people is they don't take the marketing seriously. Like marketing works.
Right.
People ask me all the time, like, well, I mean, do your Facebook ads really work? Yes. Of course they do. And if they don't work, it means if they don't work, it means you need to start making hypotheses on why they don't work.
Right.
Either your ad, like if you were to draw out the structure of e-commerce and the structure of the internet and the flow of information and the flow of resources, you could basically see that like you have all these routes that lead people to your website. Then on your website, there are certain pages people will go to, and you can measure the success of certain actions on those pages. Then you can measure what the conversion rate is of someone actually purchasing the product. Then you can see, does that person refer people, or do they join your community or whatever? So you can see some post-purchase actions as well. And then what you have to do is measure each one of those components, figure out which one of those components isn't working. Maybe your Facebook ad that you're running, maybe that is like the cost per click is really high. Maybe it's like $2 and it should be like 25 cents or something. Fix the ad. Because maybe the conversion rate on your sales page is fine. Maybe it's like 3% or 5%, which would be great. But the Facebook ad is, so like if you don't measure these things, you don't know what the hell to do. You have to measure this stuff. The data are there. Measure the data. And if you don't know how to measure the data, take a class on how to measure the data. Like, that's the people are like, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, figure it out. I didn't know how to do it either. Like, go take a course. Of course you don't know how to do it. Why would you expect, like, I don't know how to build a bicycle, but if I wanted to, but no one's born knowing how to build a bike or build a motorcycle or build a house. Like, people have to figure it out. You know, this stuff is no different. And the resources are there. It's called Google.
Right.
Like, the internet contains everything you need to know to start an online business. You just have to figure it out. And the problem is solvable. You have to have hypotheses, test those hypotheses, and then take those results, create a new hypothesis, create variations, test again, refine and test, refine and test, refine and test. And that's what it takes. You're not going to get lucky the first time and, you know, have a grand slam. Like, you have to try, learn, try, learn, try, learn. And so if you want to do online stuff, you got to figure that out. And you have to relentlessly pursue being better. If you want to be good, you have to, you know, if you want to be good, you can just kind of like slap it together. But if you want to really have a business that's going to grow, you have to always constantly make it better. Like, why would you spend more money to rebrand a business? Because it makes the business better. Yeah. Like, why would you take your products and make them better? Why wouldn't you just keep selling the ones you already have? Because then we would still have the first iPhone. Like, look at what real companies do. Like, we think of Apple as a real company. Well, did Apple wait until they had the iPhone X to launch the iPhone? No, they launched their minimal viable product, which was the first iPhone. Then what did they do? Then they made it better, and then they made it better, and then they made it better. They have advertisements on the side of the Louvre in Paris. Apple needs to advertise too. Like, so if they're advertising, why are you not advertising?
Right.
Like, look at their website. It doesn't look like some scammy blog. I think the biggest problem that people have doing internet business is they learn from like these digital marketing people who've never actually run a real business, and their site looks so scammy, and they get sucked into thinking that's how you actually do it. If that's how you actually did it, the biggest companies in the world would do that. Like, but they don't, because it doesn't work as well as making it look like a legitimate business, because it is a legitimate business. Like these. Yeah. Anyways, I could go on and on and on about that, but like the biggest businesses in the world do it a way they do for a reason. Like, learn from them. That's at least that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Those are some great points, Ryan. We've only got a few moments left. You know, and I feel like we could keep going. Like there's like, I got 10 more questions to ask. And so
We can go as long as you want, man.
Yeah. What we're gonna have to do is one day is get together in person. I think that would be awesome.
Where do you live?
North Carolina.
Like Charlotte or what?
Greensboro. So I'm right north of.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I know. I've been there.
Yeah. When are you teaching out here again?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll teach workshops anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet. I think
people teaching.
Well, yeah, I'll have other people teach Move and Fix workshop, but I think, what took you to a certain level isn't what's going to take you to the next level either.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's amazing, dude. You're on an amazing trajectory. I just hope I keep up with you one day.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of days where I struggle and feel terrible too. I have to do a lot of meditation, man.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do a lot of really weird what people would probably think is really weird meditations to keep my mindset the way it is, because it is scary.
Yeah. No, it's hard every day. It's, are you doing your own customer support?
Yeah, but I don't really have that much to do because it's all automated. And I mean, there's some people that want they have questions and stuff. So I do that right now, but probably next year I'll have staff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just noticed just the whole customer support thing is something that the further I get away from that, the more mental clarity I have in my business. It's
yeah. I mean, you got to step away from your business a lot too, to see it from a bird's eye view. It's really important. It's the analogy of if you're on an island, mm-hmm. You're like, oh shit, where's this thing? It's well, you can't see it because you're on the island, but if you're on a boat, you can see the whole island and be like, it's over there, dude.
Yeah. 100%. So Ryan, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you? What are your websites?
So the moveandfix.com is my main website. That's where the majority of my business happens. Then there's healthfit.biz, which is the business website.
Mm-hmm.
And the podcast is called Health Fit Business Podcast, if people are interested in that. And yeah, I mean, Move and Fix pretty much anywhere, YouTube or Facebook or Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Mood or something. Say
that again.
I created Anthony and I several years ago created a website called movementproviders.com, which is a registry for healthcare providers and fitness professionals who want to list their business.
Oh, cool.
So we made that as a free resource. So people could go on there and register their business. And the idea is that what we did on there was we thought about if we were going to refer a patient to someone across the country, because people would email us and say, hey, do you know anyone in Chicago, for example? I need a place to look to see who's in that area, but I know the information I want to look. What certs do they have? What's their education? Blah, blah, blah. And I didn't really believe in going to one company who certifies people's website, because I just don't believe in that model. But we wanted a free third party where all of the different techniques that do exist are all accumulated. So we created movementproviders.com so that people could register themselves, and then we could go, we and other providers could go look on there and be like, okay, they've taken this and this and this and this and this. All right, that's probably a good person,
Yeah.
So that would be another resource. But I would say movementfix.com or HealthFitBiz.
Cool.
Are the places to look.
That's awesome. Ryan, I really appreciate you being here and spending your time with us today. You've dropped the knowledge and some fire today. So thank you so much. And I know I could just keep feeding questions and softballing things into you and get you blown up. So maybe we'll have to have you on another episode in the future. Oh,
sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And thanks for coming on. And thanks for, taking the time to create these podcasts to share with people so they can continue to learn and we can all get better. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate that. Thanks so much. All right, y'all. This is Aaron LeBauer and Ryan Debell with the CashPT Lunch Hour. We'll see y'all next time.